first of all, I had never played the guitar. Maybe I'd played 10 solo gigs in my life. I've always been a band member, or played with Maria, or played with other people. So, and Amos Garrett and this and that. I was very lucky. But the idea of working things out on the guitar and performing as a solo artist was very challenging, and I took up the challenge. And also friends of mine told me I should write some songs. And so I have written a few. But one of them, this guy, Paul Rochelle, said, hey, you know, what about that trip you took to the grave of Blind Lemon Jefferson? So yeah, that was an easy one to write, in a sense, because I decided to tell the truth, you know, just what happened, you know. And I really enjoyed writing it, and I found myself coming up with some pretty interesting stuff on the guitar, which was fun for me. And, you know, it was a really special trip for me to try and do this, you know. Blind Lemon Jefferson had written "One kind favor I'll ask of you, please see that my grave is kept clean." I don't know what the real title is, but "See that my grave is kept clean." And when I was living down in New Orleans, you know, I would end up at 7, 8 in the morning over near Cafe Du Monde or down the street, Decatur Street, and we'd be eating red beans and rice or something at Fong's, 50 cents, real good, across from the Jack's Brewery. And we'd lollygag, and I was with these 4 guys one morning. I guess we were probably pretty buzzed, you know. So I told them about this song, "See That My Grave Is Kept Clean," and I started goading these guys like, come on, let's get some brooms, man. Let's hitchhike to East Texas. Come on, come on. And I guess they were as buzzed as I was, because they didn't back down. And for some reason, we were able to find 5 brooms. And we started hitchhiking over that bridge there to the Bayou country and Route 90 and up through the oil country, you know. It's not a recommended trip to this day. It's a little silly. And I even had my guitar with me. I had a D28 with me. So writing about that trip ended up in failure. But part 2 of the tune is the completion of that trip, which ended up at this beautiful, beautiful little graveyard. We went down to this town in East Texas. Oh man, was it Coochman or was it? No. Well, I'd have to be reminded of that town. But when we got there, we went to a graveyard, and I looked around, and there were all these people with like white belts on and blue hair, you know, the real, you know, country and western scene. I said, Blind Lemon Jefferson could not be in this graveyard. And I turned around, and there was sort of a floodplain there. And Wortham, Texas, that's it. And over across this floodplain was this little island, like a little, maybe a half an acre plot. And it had a little split rail fence around it and live oak trees. And you could see even across that floodplain, you see these scissor-tail flycatchers flitting up and down, you know. And we looked over there and went, that's got to be it, you know. And we just ran over there. It was just beautiful. And so we got there, and his mother was there, his sister was there. And you know, we are so lucky to have, there was something happened on this planet that produced all these geniuses. And any of us that have been lucky enough to, we're lucky enough to even, that there were phonograph records that we could even hear them, but to have met them and lollygagged and and heard what they had to say about this and that. You know, when you've got Son House teaching you how to make corn liquor, this is very different than the, you know, than the usual experiences in life. So I feel very lucky, very lucky.
Out from Jackson Square with my broom in my hand, headed out from Jackson Square. Had to get to East Texas, find that graveyard somewhere. We're down Highway 90, not fell on Lafayette. Well, down Highway 90, not fell on Lafayette. I had one dime in my pocket, I was hungry and I was soaking wet. Well, please, Mr. Policeman, please put me in your jail. Well, please, Mr. Policeman, please put me in your jail. I got to get me some rest before I get back on the trail. Got to find blind Lemon. Gotta find blind Lemon. We got to find blind Lemon. See that his grave is kept clean. Well, early next morning, boys were driving through town. Well, early next morning, boys were driving through town. They were coming out of Kansas. They stopped and passed me some whiskey. Said, fella, you ought to turn around. So we went over to the blood bank, cookies and a $2 pay. We went over to the blood bank and cookies and a $2 pay. Then we headed back to New Orleans. Gotta find blind Lemon some other day. Yes, we got to find